Thanks, Brett, for inviting us. And I say inviting us because this is not an eXp event. I mean, you all know that, right? This is not an eXp event. This was organized entirely by agents, friends, James, and all the other people that was behind this, and the executive team. And anybody on the executive or staff level? Could you guys stand up just so that you can see? We've got all the number of people here. And we're actually all invited guests of your event. And if you think about this really crazy thing is that what other real estate brokerage has agent-led events that are actually as big as corporate events, if not bigger and more impactful than corporate events? We have a shareholder event coming up here in just a few weeks, I think just 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks, anyway, someplace in there. And we're going to do more corporate stuff, which means we got to get out all the right messages, and we got to put the right people on stage. We got to make sure that we get the compliance person up, and we get the accounting up. We talk about financials. We talk about a little bit of growth, a little bit of this, and then the cool stuff happens because the rest of the cool stuff, we're actually agents want to show up is actually almost entirely agent-led. Like the rest of stuff, I mean, shareholder companies, shareholders, and all that other stuff. We'll have some institutions and other folks that are there. But I'll probably go off on a tangent here before I actually get to what I want to talk about. So I'm just going to skip from the tangent back to at least something that I made some notes. Let me just get my notes here. So, 2002, I became a licensed real estate agent. I had been, fortunately, raised by an entrepreneurial father. So I got to see businesses and how they run. I got drug off to business meetings. You got to see stuff. And as a kid, when I was 12, 13 years old, and I was being drugged to these business meetings, I thought they were the boringest, most thing on the planet, which they were. But I got to kind of be around people and got to think about business. And so when I got into real estate in 2002, and I was 35 at the time, and I was sold that. How many of you were sold that real estate's a business? So you were sold, hey, you're gonna own your own business. And what you quickly find out is that you don't own a business owns you. Like you have to answer the phone, you gotta go show properties, you gotta go up listings, you gotta go hire staff, you gotta do all this stuff. And very quickly I realized I had known a business, and this is back in 2002, so I was really good at internet lead generation, so I generated a lot of internet leads, and then I got exposed to I-Succeed University. Some of you may remember that back in the day, and some different people, Craig Proctor and a bunch of other folks that I sort of saw indirectly and heard about this thing called building a team. And I'm going, okay, that's what I need to do. I need to build a team. And so I went and built a team. I was a glutton for punishment. I didn't build just one, I built 6. I'm like going, like I wanted to make sure I got it right somewhere. And it turns out that, anybody who's run a team, I mean, Veronica, when you were talking about building a team, teams are not what the team recruiting brochure actually says. Like it says, the whole idea of owning a business worth owning for a real estate team is like, it's anything but. I mean, it's, if you're not involved, that team starts to suffer, but you gotta be involved because the best freaking career you've ever had financially. But it's like you're on a freaking hamster wheel, and the hamster wheel, doesn't stop wheeling, and you're kind of stuck on the hamster wheel. And so, the next thing, of course, is I built a team, and I built a KW like most, a lot of us here in the room had done, and I found out, that the financial benefits of profit share didn't work quite as well as I'd hoped, and so I went independent, and then from there, I had 2007 was a great year. We did a ton of business, about 73 million in production. 2008 hit. The second half of 2008, we were stuck with 4 offices. We all kinds of other challenges, and so we had to raise some money into 2009, and then 2009. There are a couple things. I think we're all prophetic if we get asked the right question, we just answer in the moment. So somebody asked a question about when do we get our offices back, and this is April 2009. I said, we're not getting our offices back. We got to figure out a way to build a defensible business model without bricks and mortar. And so that became somewhat of a challenge. And then the other thing that I thought about at that point in time is, how do you build culture and community? And there were all the things that I didn't like in my previous iterations. Started Prudential, went to Keller Williams, recognized some of the challenges of running a real estate brokerage in 2007, 8, 9, and recognizing that to get to scale, there's got to be a better opportunity for me as an agent, not me as a broker owner. Need to be for me as an agent, because I knew that unless I had agents, so I wanted to make an opportunity that literally was someplace I would go to work for had it existed. And truly, I mean that. I literally said, this has to be so good that I would build my career there, and if it existed today, that's where I'd be building my business. And so that's what we did. And so there were a number of things. One is, I have no competing interests. There is not a single thing that I do in my personal career. I've got a couple, small investment. Grant Cardone talked me into put a couple dollars into a couple of his deals, but he's pretty persistent in just his stuff that he does. It's pretty hard to say no. But outside of that, everything is in eXp. And why that's important is I never wanted to compete with the agents that I was working with, because I actually believe that they themselves would want all the benefits that the person that's leading them gets. And I didn't get that Prudential. The broker owner owned a development company, they owned this, they owned that, and I thought that was cool for him. But I wasn't getting into that benefit, and I was number top buyer's agent that my first full year there, and number 3 in the office. And then I went to Keller, and I was the number 1 team in the office, and I was offered 1% equity. That was it. And they weren't willing to sell me more, but when I left, they literally had to give the office to Ben Kinney, who then became, that sort of started his career. But literally, when we left the office, the profit was non-existent then, so they literally had to have somebody just take over payments, and yet they weren't able to sell me anything. Of course, Gary Kelly didn't want to sell to anybody. He wanted to keep that, the training arm, the this, the that, the whatever, and always bugged the crap out of me that I'm in here building stuff, consuming stuff, and there's one person making the money. And so I always said, if we ever build a company, we're going to make sure that our agents are actually shareholders with us. And I was just doing some rough calculations here a little bit ago, and Jeff Whiteside can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that at today's valuation, we've distributed over $2 billion worth of equity to our agents and brokers. Somebody sold us some of their equity. So, but if you'd held it the whole time, that's $2 billion. You think there's a lot of wealth there, and the reason why is I was really, really focused on staying true. And the big thing, and I think we saw it come up time and time again, and I heard this from Don Hobbs years ago, even before eXp, is the purpose of a business is to serve the needs of the owner. And I think everybody got a real estate license because they were looking for one thing, and that was freedom. That was freedom. It was, I'm going to go get my real estate license so I can become free. And what didn't happen was they didn't become free. They actually became trapped, because real estate itself is a pretty good profession, but it's so good a profession that you're ruined for anything else. And yet it drives us freaking nuts having to go out there and try to generate more leads, work with buyers and sellers, which are awesome. They put food on our table, they put a roof over our head, but it can be frustrating and it can be depressing. And so many people, the big theme that I have heard over the years, and I was fortunate to duck it. I never hit this wall where I saw real estate as a dead end, because I was always thinking about being creative. So that sort of the imagination piece, I've always had that. And I wanted to, so the reason why I bring all that up, there's probably a bunch of reasons. I'm not sure that this one is even going to make sense, but the reason why I bring this up is, everything that I do is truly aligned. We're working on, partnerships and relationships and other things. And earlier this year in January, I was on Clubhouse. Was anybody on that Clubhouse when I first met Grant? Yeah. Okay, there was a few people that were in here. Lisa Copeland, she was like, you gotta meet Glenn, and Glenn meet Grant. So Grant and I, met in January over Clubhouse. We talked, and then a few days later, or about a week or so later, we talked again. And then we said, and he invited me to come speak at 10X GrowthCon. And so I didn't know who Grant was at that point in time, other than I'd seen some social media stuff, and I knew he wrote the 10X rule and some other things. But he'd just done this thing called The Undercover Billionaire, and there was 2 or 3 episodes that were out, and so we got the Discovery Plus thing, and Debbie was like, we were both kind of like a little skeptical of who this guy was, and then we watched these episodes of Undercover Billionaire, and we're going, man, this is a cool guy, but then there was only 3 episodes, so then we go back and we go, we gotta watch like the first season of Undercover Billionaire, so we ended up watching the first season, and I'm bringing gentleman up here in just a minute, Glenn Stearns, but he was the star of the Undercover Billionaire, and at the end of that, there's a reason why he's here, and I'm all about relationship-based businesses, and at the end of this season, and I think maybe in Comeback City that he did 2 seasons, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, but I saw he was in lending, and I thought, and he's got this really cool company called Kind Lending, and I thought, it'd be really cool if we could ever meet up with Glenn Stearns, because he's got this lending company, and then we got a chance to meet him at Grant Cardone's home, and then we texted each other, and we just texted that I was going to be here. He says, "Oh, bring a bunch of people down." So he's got like a few people from his Kind Lending team just kind of observing. So one of the cool things is if we ever put something together with him or with anybody, it's everything's eXp. So no matter what I do, whatever we do together, whatever we bring together, this is all together. This is all us. This is our businesses that we're building together. It's about me, Glenn Sanford. It's always going to be about us, eXp. And that's just been my mindset, and it's worked super, super well. But without going too much further, I want to introduce somebody who I'm just getting to know, amazing human being, somebody who I've got to see. By the way, if you haven't seen the Undercover Billionaire, start watching it. You'll fall in love with this guy. He's like the most endearing entrepreneur that I've had a chance to watch on TV and start to get to know. And I'd like him to just share a little bit about what he's been up to, the show, how we've come just to this point in time, and we'll see where it goes from there. So awesome, Mr. Glenn Stearns.
Thank you, Glenn. So yes, I'm the other Glenn, and I appreciate you inviting us here. And when I first kind of came, Brent said, "Well, just observe," and Glenn said, "And then just whatever inspires you, talk about." And I mean, wow, you guys, it's not a real estate company that you own here. Okay, I mean, this is a movement. I mean, it really is. It's funny because I think about like the words I heard, right? It wasn't about the money. It was about the family. It was about the faith. It was about just kindness. It was a lot of different things that were all about culture and how you feel. And, that was so important. When I started out in the mortgage business in 1989, I built a company up, and we went through all the scary times, and it was 2007 and 8 were very interesting years. We came out of that, and we ended up being the largest wholesaler in the country, largest joint venture partner in the country. Yes, we need to talk more about that. We became a very, very big retail partner, and then the second largest lender next to Quicken in the country. But what I did is I sold it, and I ended up retaining a minority interest. And that made me kind of feel like I forget who it was that was saying it earlier, but like a franchise, because I owned a minority interest and I was stuck. I couldn't go out. The culture completely disappeared. And so everything that I wanted, the freedom and the fun, and we had a few thousand people. We had 6 people leave the year that I had sold. When a couple years later, they were talking about 37% attrition, and I said, that's like over 1,000 people that left our organization. because it wasn't, again, it wasn't about that culture anymore, and it wasn't about that feeling. And so I was then stuck. I was in this kind of relationship, and it was fine. That's what they wanted to do. They put a lot of money in, and but I was not happy at that point being there. So I ended up leaving, as far as going off around the world and just kind of doing some fun stuff and not being involved at all in the company. And then I ended up with cancer myself. And by the way, yesterday I was at MD Anderson and got my all clear yesterday. Speaking of MD and changing lives. But what that did, I mean, it's just, and I hope you don't have to go through cancer, but what a wonderful gift it is to be able to see a different perspective. Because it's not all about money. And money's great, it's a wonderful byproduct, but we believe now in what we're doing at Kind Lineage, it's about other currencies, right? It's about happiness, joy, it's about giving back, it's about different things. And that's all I have heard from you guys. It wasn't about the money, it's about your life, it's about feeling joyful. And so when I ended up kind of having that period of time, I went around the world and did my thing. I had a lot of people always calling me and asking if I wanted to do a show. Long story, because I did one about 15 years ago, so they kept coming back around. Hey, do you want to do a show? And I said, I'm okay, I think I'm all right, but I would do a show if you want to take me in the middle of nowhere, drop me off, give me $100, let's see if I can rebuild again. And I would always say that. And then Discovery took me up on that. And the one thing that Grant had, he had a perspective I didn't. He could watch, I wouldn't do the stupid stuff Glenn did, because, but what I did is I ended up just saying, okay, I'll do it without giving it a whole lot of thought. And so, I found myself the first day, because I was in Miami and having a nice life, and they came down and just said, you're going, took me to Erie, Pennsylvania, and gave me the $100 in a beat up pickup truck. And I remember getting out of the car, and then I go, okay, like with this big camera crew in tow, and I said, okay, what do you want me to do now? And they're like, you got 90 days, build a business. I was like, holy crap, right? And so, what's funny is, because building and growing and learning, what I found was, I had made a lot of money, I had a nice life, was very comfortable, and I had a great reputation. So why in the world am I now going to go out in front of the entire world and see if I can do it again at 55 years old? It really didn't make a lot of sense. And I had some friends that were on the show that didn't make the show. They cut them out, believe it or not. It was Richard Branson and John Elway. Cut them both out. And it's like, that's dumb. You should have left those guys in. But they asked them, like, what, would you want to do this? Wouldn't this be fun? And they both said, hell no. I would never do something stupid like that. And, and I thought, well, why? Why wouldn't you want to do it? And then halfway into the show, and I remember it so well when I see myself, as I watched it, and I see this long stare, and I'm thinking, why in the hell did I want to do this again? Like, I couldn't understand at the moment, because what it's really about, and what happens is, we all get into holes, and we get into places where we think, life is over, this is going to be the worst thing in the world, and yet, they're only situations, especially in business, and it's about problem solving, and it's about gathering your friends and people around and getting out of the hole. And then we feel so much, just be so proud of what we've done. And so here I had gone through this cancer, I had my kids that are sitting there thinking, look at, kind of sick dad, and they didn't realize, hey, I have life in me, and I have this world where I had built people around and full of integrity and honesty and things, and I wanted them to see that. So now that I'm in the show, and I'm doing that, but I'm in the middle, looking around going, I'm going to fail in front of the world. And And it's digging yourself out of that hole and being able to feel proud that you did your best, whatever that means, right? And so I absolutely love that feeling. I didn't know it at the time, but of getting out of the hole, right? And so if you've seen the show, it turned out pretty well. Ended up building a barbecue restaurant, and it was really about surrounding myself with great people. And so I sit here and I come back out of that, and then they announce the show. We're gonna have Undercover Billionaire on. It's the same day my old company, Stearns Lending, announces they're going bankrupt. So I have the Wall Street Journal calling me, hey, are you Mr. Undercover Billionaire, or are you the bankrupt guy? And I'm like, it's not my company, right? And again, the world has a sense of humor, I guess. And so, I sit there and I remember kind of that moment that happened, because I was owed a lot of money, I had a lot of stock and all this stuff, and within 2 minutes I remember feeling this surge of being very excited and very grateful for the opportunity, because I wanted to do it again, right? I did it with the show, but I wanted to really do it again. And so the minute that happened, the freedom came. We were living in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and another zero state income tax place, by the way. And so we're living there, and I told my wife, I said, let's go. She said, what do you mean? I said, I want to go back to California and rebuild the company again. So we have gone back out and done the exact same thing, but only different. And it's exactly the way you guys are doing this. We built Kind Lending on the fact that we're the anti-mortgage banker, right? I mean, this boring old bankers, we're out there doing it just completely different. We've brought in a whole new set of people. Now, by the way, most of them we knew, because we did it 30 years before. But it's about having fun. It's the culture. It's really about that other currency, again, right? It's about joy and happiness, and not about the interest rates. And what we're doing is exactly the same thing, Glenn, you do. It's about caring about the people inside. Okay, if we can keep these people happy and we can get them to understand, just like you guys, you're not out there busting your ass to be miserable. Right? You're out there sacrificing so that you can do something for your family, and you can do something for your community, and you can have a life that you're proud of, that when you dug yourself out of your own hole, that you feel great. So that's what we started doing at Kind Lending, and we started bringing those people in. So the first 90 days, 3 months, we ended up doing as much business as it took the first time 15 years to get done, right? We did the first $1 billion in the first 6 months. We hit $3 billion of originations in March, right, a month ago. So it's just rolling again. But it's not about the money. It's about the people, making sure they feel exactly what you guys feel here. So sitting, listening to what you guys are doing, right? It is so wonderful to be around a company of change, right? A company that is not here just about money. What you've done is incredible, Glenn. What these people, what you guys have done is incredible. My goodness, man. It's exactly what we're doing. And I want to be a part of this organization. I'm telling you guys. Right? It's amazing. When you face stuff like cancer, when you face stuff like the things that are important about your family, then it's about doing something exceptional. And you guys are all doing something so exceptional. And I am blessed to be a part of this. So thank you very, very much, Glenn.